Season 2 of Andor can only be described as an epic work of unfiltered revolution, standing among Les Miserables as its sci-fi contemporary. The show's grand scale pushes the boundaries of the genre, reaching the heights of the greatest spy thrillers and political dramas. It encapsulates everything great about George Lucas's original Star Wars saga, wrapping the two trilogies in a neat package that I'd consider essential viewing. My review is that you just simply have to watch this show. It's the most important piece of anti-fascist media in recent history, and that's no overstatement. I'm not going to sit here and compare Andor to the rest of Disney's utilization of the Star Wars property. I'm not going to make my sole thought process on the masterpiece I got to witness related to the product that comes next, be it positive or negative. To do so, I feel, would be disrespectful to the infinitely talented cast and crew who spent years of their blood, sweat, and tears to create something so beautiful. This video serves to examine what makes the show exactly that. I want to take a look at one major theme per arc of the season and look deeper into how the show's writing executes each one to the fullest. Obviously, we're in spoiler territory now, so go watch the show if you haven't. Bix's story in the first few episodes of the season serves to continue an important idea from the first season, the idea that fascism is a physically violating and heinous ideology, and take it to its most extreme. This extreme is represented by the character of Lieutenant Kroll, a lowly Imperial officer taking part in the inspection of Mina Rao's grain exports, as well as the visas of those residing on said planet. From the beginning of the season, our reintroduction to Bix is through her nightmare of Dr. Gorst's torture. A year later, he continuously haunts her and strips her of her defenses, forcing her to show vulnerability. The dream sequence is shot through the perspective of Gorst in complete darkness, the means by which the Empire thrives, to accompany the sinister undertones of the Empire's past and future violations of everyday citizens such as Bix. The extent to which she was tortured in the first season was already brutal enough, and Kroll's introduction brings it to a whole new level of dehumanization and cruelty. He uses her status as an undocumented refugee as leverage against her, and attempts to rape her, riding the high of the sickening power trip. She fights back in a state of shock, leading into one of the most brutal and uncomfortable scenes that a Star Wars project has ever dared to portray. The scene where she kills Kroll and his associate who allowed this heinous act to happen isn't played off as a triumphant victory, but rather a harrowing act of survival, raw, desperate, and emotionally shattering. The camera lingers not on vengeance, but on the trauma etched across Bix's face, grounding the moment in anguish rather than catharsis. It reinforces Andor's commitment to portraying the emotional cost of resistance, showing that even necessary violence leaves scars. The scene is a direct subversion of the usual man saves woman from abuse power fantasy cliché. This moment isn't used to lift up Cassian or any other male protagonist. It only exists to further Bix's characterization and imply a commonality she shares with other women oppressed by the rule of the Empire. Bix isn't empowered by this act of violence. She's devastated by what she had to do and what was done to her. In that way, the show makes a pointed argument. Under fascism, even survival can be an act of defiance, but it rarely feels like liberation. The Gorman massacre, unfolding across 2 arcs, stands as a masterclass in portraying systemic genocide, meticulously unfolding the Empire's calculated brutality through a series of deliberate actions and decisions. Yes, I know I said I would talk about one theme per arc, but the intricacies of the specific plotline, with roots as deep as a handful of scenes in the first few episodes, makes it difficult to talk about this one important idea in isolation. The narrative begins with Director Krennic's clandestine meeting, where he emphasizes Gorman's mineral wealth, particularly
calcite, synthetic calcites, calcite alternatives, calcite substitutes. I mean, the amount of time spent
as vital for the Emperor's energy initiative, which we later learn is a front for the secret Death Star program. Despite acknowledging the potential environmental collapse and the risk to the planet's many inhabitants, Krennic insists on proceeding, ordering that no records be kept to maintain plausible deniability. Tensions escalate, and the Empire employs psychological tactics to suppress dissent. As the Empire tightens its grip, Episode 4 reveals how Cyril Karn, now embedded as a Bureau of Standards agent on Gorman, carefully manipulates the Gorman front from within. His surveillance and chance of betrayal sparks distrust among the rebels, fracturing their fragile unity. In Episode 5, Cassian's skepticism of the Gorman front's impulsiveness grows, keeping in line with the pessimistic philosophy we've grown to know from the first season.
It's not stealing things that's difficult. It's getting away. But you won't be doing that. You'll be living at the scene of the crime. Worse than that, you're planning to advertise what you've done. So then what? Let it continue. Let them build what they want. Let them persecute us for no reason. And tighten the noose every time we cry out. Is that what you suggest?
Is that truly your recommendation?
I have more questions than recommendations. Not much of a revolutionary, are you? Perhaps not.
He sees their eagerness as a liability rather than an asset, highlighting the complex moral terrain of resistance movements under fascism. The tension culminates in episode 6 when Caro Rylance, desperate for tangible results, pushes the group towards riskier, more confrontational protests, playing right into the Empire's hands. The Empire's psychological warfare intensifies as they build an armory, a towering symbol of violence, that casts a shadow over a memorial commemorating the losses of Gorman citizens to the ruthless actions of Grand Moff Tarkin, deliberately provoking unrest that, in the eyes of the Empire, will justify harsher crackdowns. These episodes show the Empire's genocidal strategy not as spontaneous violence, but as a cold, deliberate orchestration where oppression is layered, bureaucratic control, infiltration, manipulation, and strategic violence, all designed to break Gorman's spirit and pave the way for the ruthless exploitation of its resources. In Episode 8, Captain Kaido orchestrates a false flag operation by having an Imperial sniper shoot a fellow trooper, creating the illusion that members of a large band of peaceful protesters initiated violence. This act serves as a pretext for the Empire to unleash a brutal crackdown, and the massacre itself is depicted with harrowing realism. Stormtroopers and KX security droids descend upon the protesters, executing them with ruthless efficiency. The beautiful landscapes established in the last 4 episodes are in complete ruins. Bodies of the soulful people we've grown attached to are dropping like flies, and a desperate citizen delivers the most heart-wrenching lines the show has to offer.
Help us! Is there no one who can help us? Is there no one?
The aftermath, as shown in Episode 9, sees Senator Mon Mothma delivering a powerful speech in the Imperial Senate, condemning the Empire's actions as genocide. The speech itself is such a wonderful work of writing, performed to perfection by Genevieve O'Reilly, and my words couldn't possibly do it justice. Her denunciation marks a pivotal moment as she publicly breaks from the Empire and solidifies her role in the burgeoning rebellion. Through its unflinching portrayal of the Gorman massacre, Andor exposes the insidious nature of systemic genocide, illustrating how authoritarian regimes employ a combination of bureaucratic manipulation, psychological warfare, and brute force to suppress and eliminate opposition. The series compels viewers to confront the grim realities of fascism, emphasizing that resistance, while necessary, often comes at a profound personal and collective cost beyond anything its viewers can imagine. Before I move on, I just want to highlight how Bix's traumatic experience and the Gorman Massacre storyline resonates so deeply because they're rooted in the grim realities of historical fascism and systemic violence. Bix's trauma, including the attempted sexual assault by Lieutenant Kroll, reflects the devastating use of sexual violence as a tool of domination and terror employed by many real-world authoritarian regimes to break both bodies and spirits.
Väterchen Stalin gave his troops the right to rape, to steal, to kill, to do whatever they want to do. And believe me, they did.
Meanwhile, the calculated bureaucratic orchestration of the Gorman Massacre echoes infamous state-sponsored genocides and massacres where governments deliberately manufacture chaos through infiltration, misinformation, and staged violence to justify mass repression and extermination. By portraying these events with stark realism, Andor refuses to sanitize or mythologize fascism. Instead, it exposes the cold, mechanical nature of systemic brutality and the profound psychological scars left on individuals and communities. This grounding in historical atrocity imbues the show's narratives with a weighty political and emotional truth, reminding viewers that resistance under such regimes is as much about enduring trauma as it is about fighting back. If Bix's storyline and the Gorman Massacre represent the emotional and systemic costs of resisting fascism, then Clea Markey's story across episodes 10 through 12 offers a fragile yet powerful counterpoint. The idea that rebellion is not only about survival, but about building something better for those who come after. The series ultimately concludes with a restatement of Luthen Rael's expression of sacrifice from the first season.
I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude.
We finally see Clea's past unveiled, not just as Luthen's cold second-in-command, but as a survivor of Imperial violence who was once a child herself, rescued from annihilation and reshaped into a beacon of hope. Her character becomes the quiet heart of these later episodes. In episode 10, as Luthen's arrest and interrogation become inevitable, it is Clea who must choose whether to protect him or protect the rebellion. Her decision to euthanize him before he can be interrogated is devastating, but it's also merciful and deeply principled. She chooses the future over the past, the many over the one. It's an act of love, not just for Luthen, but for the cause they both dedicated their lives to. This sacrifice is not romanticized. The moment is still steeped in grief, but it carries a clarity and moral direction that distinguishes it from the nihilism surrounding the Gorman Front's collapse or Bix's violated autonomy. In the final episode, after all the fighting and intensity and sacrifice, we see Clea's soft smile as she looks upon the fully formed rebellion. In a series filled with broken systems and broken bodies, this image lands like a breath of fresh air. Where the Gorman massacre showed genocide and bureaucratic erasure, and Bix's arc laid bare the intimate horror of fascism's violence, Clea's ending offers a kind of hard-won grace. Her story insists that rebellion is about more than just destruction, it's about inheritance. It's a willingness to die for people you will never meet so that they may one day live free. And that, in Andor's moral universe, is its own form of victory. That same spirit of inheritance carries into the series' quiet final moment. Bix, holding Cassian's child, watches a sunrise, potentially one that the love of her life never got to see. After everything she's endured, torture, attempted assault, the loss of her community, this image lands not as triumph, but as testimony. Bix may not be whole, but she is present. The sunrise is a symbol of fragile renewal, and the child she holds is the physical embodiment of the future that Cassian, Luthen, and countless others gave everything to secure. In a season marked by brutality, grief, and sacrifice, Andor closes not with vengeance or resolution, but with a promise. The cost of resistance has been immense, and its victories incomplete, but in this one image of survival, care, and continuity, the show offers its final radical truth, that even in the aftermath of horror, it is still possible to build a better world. One of my favorite litmus tests when talking to other fans is their reaction to the idea that Star Wars is, always has been, and always should be politically bold. From the overt parallels to Nazism in the original trilogy to the subtler critiques of the Reagan-era war machine in the prequels, George Lucas's Star Wars was never apolitical. It always had something to say. Andor doesn't just understand that legacy, it honors and deepens it. It strips away the mythologized sheen of rebellion and shows the human cost, the moral grayness, and the emotional weight that real resistance demands. In doing so, Andor becomes the perfect spiritual successor to Lucas's original vision, not because it replicates his aesthetic, but because it revives his purpose. It reminds us that science fiction is not an escape from reality, but a lens through which we can confront it more clearly. And for that reason alone, Andor is elevated from a great show to essential viewing. If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around. I'm happy I got the chance to be positive about Star Wars again. It's a property that's been near and dear to my heart since I was young, and I'm glad to have seen it thrive for these past few weeks. If you enjoyed the political complexity of the show, I highly recommend the novel Catalyst by James Luceno, a book that details the intense tale of ambition and betrayal that sets the stage for Rogue One, just like Andor does. I also highly recommend Luceno's novel set in the prequel era, if that's one you're interested in. Yes, I'm taking any opportunity I get to plug Star Wars books. I like them, they're amazing. As always, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content of this video, and leave a comment if you want to discuss anything about this wonderful show with me. Sagrona!